And a TGIF Travers style, everyone. I'm Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now, and Jeff Siegel as we represent First Bet and Express Bet. It's the First Call podcast. We're going to handicap 8 stakes races for you around the country. And of course, the big day tomorrow is Travers Day at Saratoga, Jeff. But we've got a big Friday as well. I mean, as we record our podcast and send it out in the premiere, we've got the Personal Ensign at Saratoga today. We've got the rescheduled King's Plate at Woodbine. And at Charlestown tonight, we've got the Charlestown Classics. There's a lot to dig into this week.
Oh, man, it's great. I mean, what a fun day for Friday. Normally, we just kind of – it's just a preview for Saturday. Just kind of hit your feet with if you haven't handicapped all week. But this is real today. Yeah. Not only at Saratoga, but you mentioned the Woodbine card. And then tonight at Charlestown, I had forgotten how much money they give away on these big days, you know. You got a $750,000 Oaks. You've got undercard races that are $500,000. It's just amazing, you know. It's just so we'll do a couple of those for those who want to play Charlestown tonight. And why wouldn't you? Some high quality racing there and some good horses shipping in to get the money.
Yeah, the slots era has changed a lot. There's no question about that. I remember going to Charlestown when 2,500 claimers were running for about that in person.
Yeah.
And that was the bulk of the card. So big night at Charlestown coming up tonight for the Charlestown Classic. For the benefit of those of you on our audio channels, we'll give you a look at our schedule and run it down for you. Those of you on YouTube and on X, be sure to like and share this out. Send your comments in the comment section as well. Our 2 Friday races that we'll handicap here on the First Call podcast are the Charlestown Oaks and the Charlestown Classic. They'll go as races 10 and 11 on the card tonight. Then we'll go to Saratoga on Saturday for 5 of the stakes races on Travers Day. We'll start with the Sword Dancer, go to the Ballerina, the Forgo, the H. Allen Jerkins, which is our Express Bet race of the week, and then the Travers Stakes, the Midsummer Derby, the big one from the Spa. At Del Mar on Saturday, it'll be the Pat O'Brien, the second big sprint stakes towards the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. We'll talk about the big hitter in that one, of course, the Chosen Braun back after winning the stakes earlier in the meet, the Bing Crosby. He'll look for a sweep in the Pat O'Brien. Some great promos for you to attack, not only Friday, but Saturday. Talk first about the Friday promos. We've got a King's Plate, 2 million points, and the first rewards points hit and split in the Pick 5 on King's Plate Day Friday at Woodbine. Also Friday night at Charlestown, there's a 2 million first rewards points hit and split in the late Pick 4. If you want help on that Pick 4, check out Frank Caruli's blog. If you want help at Woodbine on the King's Plate card, check out the blog we have for you by Scott Shapiro at expressbet.com and at news.first.com. And of course, our big hit and split on Saturday. 5 million first rewards points are up for grabs. I think that's somewhere around, when you convert it to wagering credits, I think it's something like $20,000 in wagering credits. So be sure to attack the late Pick 4 on Saturday at Saratoga, races 10 through 13. You'll hit not only your pari-mutuel winnings, but you'll get your share of 5 million first rewards points. Again, that can be reclaimed for wagering credits into your account, for swag, for past performances and data purchases, that sort of thing like that. So a lot you can do with those first rewards points, and 5 million of them, they sure spend nicely. And we'll also have a $20 money back special on the Travers Stakes on Saturday, race number 13 on the card. You get up to $20 back if you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. If your win bet in the Travers happens to run second or third, and Jeff, just right off the top, you might need that insurance in this year's Travers. There are legitimately, I think, 5 win contenders in that race. So a little safety net to run second or third. That $20 money back special is a pretty good deal.
I think I changed my pick like 3 times in the Travers. Finally had a revelation towards the end of it. I thought, okay, I think I found at least the one that I'm going to play, but with the same non-conviction I have a lot of races where you think you're going to pick, but you can see other winners, you know. Yep. And that's the Travers. So many things will influence the outcome, the pace, the pace scenario, the race shape. If there's a bias, sometimes you get that at Saratoga, and so we'll attack it. But it's a great race to watch, and so much on the line, really, when you think about it. It could determine the Eclipse Award winner in the division. So we'll see what happens. But it's a great card as well, with all the undercard stakes races that have Breeders' Cup implications. So I'm looking forward to Travers Day at Saratoga.
Tonight at Charlestown, let's handicap races 10 and 11 here on the podcast. Let's start with the 10th. It is the Charlestown Oaks, 3-year-old fillies, of course. 7 furlongs at Charlestown starts at the head of the lane, and it's only a 3/4 mile bull ring, so it's a 2-turn 7 furlongs. Inside post can have some advantage in these type of races. We've got a full field in here with an also eligible as well. Impel is expected to scratch out of this race and run in a stakes race, the Captain Sophia at Parks, a prep to the Cotillion on Saturday. So let's take a look at your picks for the Charlestown Oaks, Jeff, race 10.
I ended up with Holland Ice. She's never been worse than second in 7 starts. Career top number in her most recent race at the 7 furlong distance, although that was a 1-turn 7 furlong race at Gulfstream in the Azalea. She's got a great style where she can go to the front, and if you give her the lead, she's probably going to win. But if not, she doesn't have to be there. She can sit second, third, or fourth, or even fifth, as she did in her most recent start. And as many horses do when they get transferred to the Safi Joseph Jr. barn, they tend to get faster, and she has. So I think that she's she's here to win, and a $750,000 race. It's a 2-turn race, as you pointed out. She's never been two turns. I don't think that's going to affect her at all. No. She's got a long run of the clubhouse turn. She could draft in and make the lead if nobody goes. If not, she's happy to sit second or third. Pedigree-wise, she should stay the trip. I mean, 2 turns. It's not. It's a sprint 2 turns. Like I said, I don't think that's an issue at all for Holland Ice. I think she continues to win, and I'm not sure how short a price she'll be. She's 7-2 on the morning line. She won't be that, but I think she's good. And the way Safi's been going everywhere, I mean, there's no reason to think she won't run at least as well, if not better, than she did in her most recent race.
Let's go back and take a listen to that one. This is the Azalea from Gulfstream with Pete Aiello.
Our Harper Rose throws up the white flag, and Holland Ice sets sail for the money, 4 lengths to the good. Musia is now second, Candy Gray down the center. Our Harper Rose backpedals badly as Holland Ice draws off smartly. Holland Ice, the Arkansas-bred daughter of Cold Front, running up the score under Abisael Jaramillo. They win the Azalea by 6.
Now, the horse I think could put a stop to this Irad Ortiz charge that Jeff has as Holland Ice is the Jose Ortiz steered filly, Princess Madison. She's also inside speed in post number 2. She was dominant at Churchill in 109 and change and breaking her maiden 2 starts back. She came back and doubled down with a win at Saratoga going 6 furlongs. I like the inside. I like the speed, and she's got 2 really sharp workouts since then. Sharpness is going to be key here with the run to the first turn, the clubhouse turn. You don't want to get hung wide in this big field of 10. So the 2, Princess Madison, the 4, Holland Ice, both have early speed, good post positions to take advantage of. This could be an Ortiz brother exacta, and Jeff and I are on either side of the brotherly rivalry in that one in the Charlestown Oaks. I'll take the 2, Princess Madison, and Jeff's got the 4 in here, Holland Ice.
Well, the race might be determined by who beats who to the clubhouse turn, too.
Correct.
Princess Madison coming off a sharp race. She's actually a little faster on numbers than Holland Ice, and she's only had 4 starts. She could have a lot more improvement in her as would and could Holland Ice. I can see that pick as Holland Ice is one to worry about the most. And I agree. It's an Ortiz brothers exacta one way or the other.
Safi Joseph Jr.'s got one of the major players that we talked about in the Oaks. He's got the major player to talk about in the Charlestown Classic. That's where we head next in race number 11. It's the defending champ in the Charlestown Classic, that being Skippy Longstocking. Skippy Longstocking, the likely favorite here, even money in the morning line. Jeff, he was good in this race last year. His form has been solid again this year. Do we expect the same kind of effort that we saw a year ago? Let's take a look at that, and you'll tell me if you think he can repeat.
But in the meantime, it's Skippy Longstocking, Tyler Gaffalione sitting chilly, yet to ask Skippy for his best. He comes to the top of the stretch with a 4-length lead. Call Me Fast comes 4 wide off the turn. Dash Attack, Muad'Dib fights on, but as they come down to the 16th pole, it's Skippy Longstocking, and he's run them off their feet. Skippy Longstocking takes them all the way in the Charlestown Classic, romps home by 5.
Tyler Gaffalione aboard last year. It's Jose Ortiz this time around for Safi Joseph Jr. Could be a big night for Ortiz. We'd expect these guys who come down from a day at Saratoga at Charlestown, they're not coming down if they don't have live mounts, and they certainly do. Ortiz does have it with the defending champ.
I don't know about even money. He's even money in the morning line. That doesn't look like as much of a gamble there. But he wasn't up to winning the Whitney. I don't hold that against him. He ran hard in that race, and He gave it his best. He's just not good enough to beat Arthur's right. But I can tell you this: horses for courses is a major handicapping angle for me. The problem is you have the ultimate horses for course in here in Coastal Mission. So,
Yeah.
I don't think Coastal Mission is as good as Skippy's Long Stocking on their best day.
Mm-hmm.
Coastal Mission actually hasn't been back to Charlestown for a while. He's been competing in some really good races. If you look at his form, nothing wrong with the second place finish in the Nehru last time out. That was going 7/8. Mile and eighth is, maybe a little farther than he really wants to run against this group, but he's still a very good horse, and he's going to be happy to come home. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Skippy Longstocking, he's had some hard races, can come back and repeat his best race. I think Coastal Mission will run his race. The question is, based on numbers, he's not as good as Skippy's Longstocking if they both show up with their A game. So that's the race, I think, those two. It's a good race to watch. I'm not sure about betting Skippy Longstocking though at anywhere close to even money. That's not the kind of price I want to take on a horse like him.
Yeah, Coastal Mission at 7/8 to Charlestown. Yeah, then you think maybe he could beat some of the out-of-towners coming in, but at a mile and an eighth, that'll probably stretch him a little too far. He did win the West Virginia Breeders' Classics against State Breds, going the mile and an eighth. But that was 153 and change. These horses got to run like 151, 152. So you're gonna have to go much faster over a mile and an eighth than he did in winning the Classic. We'll see if he can. That being Coastal Mission. I'm gonna throw another horse into the mix here to talk about in the Charlestown Classic. That is Velocitor. The reason I like this horse coming off a third in the Cornhusker. The runner-up in that race, Unload, came back to win the Governor's Cup at Remington Park last week. Pretty live race, the Governor or the Cornhusker. But it's the race 3 starts back for Velocitor that interests me for this Gary Scherer trainee. He won the Bosselman Gus Fawner, and Fawner Park is a bull ring, and that's the big race where they get the best horses in the Midwest to kind of come up and run over the bull ring. That's as close as we have to the Charlestown Classic, I think, in some other parts of the country in terms of the circumference of the racetrack, the configuration of the way the race is run. This horse ran one of the best races of his career at Fawner Park. Velocitor could like the bull ring and might be a good matchup here. Like Skippy Longstocking, like you want to have in this race, he has a nice pressing style. He doesn't have to go to the front. He's not going to go to the front, but he's not going to be far off of it. And you got to stay in shouting range going around 3 turns here at Charlestown. They're going to start on the back stretch, make, the first turn, then clubhouse turn, and then far turn again. So I think Velocitor's got a shot in here under David Cohen. I'm going to give that one a chance in there, but you got to beat Skippy Longstocking. No doubt about that. Bill Mott has Ben Dude coming in. A horse ran in Dubai World Cup back in 2023. Of course, Mott won this race a couple years ago with Art Collector a time or two. So certainly a quality runner there, and Mott knows what it takes to bring a horse to Charlestown to win the big one. So that's our look at the Charlestown Oaks and Classic for Friday night. We change gears to Saturday now at Saratoga, where we're going to handicap 5 stakes races on the card from the Spa. We're going to start things off in race number 9. This could be a Charlie Appleby match race. Certainly seems to be on paper. Race number 9 is the Sword Dancer, grade 1, mile and a half on turf. Maybe the distance being significant in here, and how you evaluate the 2 measured time and also the 4 Silver Knot. These are the 2 Charlie Appleby trainees. Measured time coming off a win at a mile and 3/16. Silver Knot coming off a win at a mile and 3/8. Jeff, you get Flavian Pratt on Silver Knot, top stakes rider this meet at Saratoga. You get William Buick, who just doesn't seem to miss when he comes to the U.S., riding measured time. This should be a great showdown.
Really is. And the question with measured time, who was, I thought, so impressive winning the Manhattan and had that form Frank when Nation's Pride came back to win, is the distance. I think Charlie Appleby probably would like to see if measured time will get the trip for Breeders' Cup implications, and whether that's going to be an option for him or not. You might as well try him and see if it's going to be within his range. And I don't see, as a son of Frankel, why it wouldn't be. He's drawn inside, going to get a ground-saving trip. He doesn't pull. He's a very handy horse. It's like riding a car. You can go to the front, get back, and then hit the pedal, and he takes off again. Silver Knot, I thought, was really impressive. Winning the Bowling Green, probably didn't beat quite the quality of horse he's going to have to beat in measured time.
Right.
But he's obviously, as a gelding now at 4, he's really gotten good. Numbers are rising. They're very close on the figs. It's really just a matter of who do you think will handle a mile and a half better than the other one. I'm going to try measured time. He's a little longer price. If 7-5 is considered a longer price than the even money that Silver Knot is. But this is basically a go-to-school type of race for the connections in Godolphin and trying to figure out what options they have with measured time. I think they'll probably be covered somewhere in the mile if they would want to drop them back and do that, but they've already got one for that. Master of the Seas. So I think measured time is probably the right one here. Again, a great race. Hope they get firm ground so we get a clear and true run to see where these two horses stand.
Yeah, and look, it's just a field of 6. We're not talking about the others. There's really not any competition for them, I don't think, among the other 4. Grand Sonata comes off a rallying second last time out in the Grade 2 United Nations behind the Speedster Get Smoking, but was 23-1 that day. The others in here, Soldier Rising, Far Bridge, Pioneering Spirit, they're okay. Pioneering Spirit won the Bernard Baruch, but over a mile and a 16th here last summer. Doesn't seem to be a mile and a half horse in my estimation. So we will see if anybody can warm up measured time or Silver Knot. They're also the only 2 speeds in the race, and then they're not dead set front runners, but they've both won going right towards the front or toward the pace in their recent starts. So these 2 are going to control it. What are the riding instructions to Buick and to Pratt? Who's going to kind of sit? Who's going to kind of stalk? And these 2 are just going to kind of take this Godolphin blue. I wore this shirt on purpose today. The Godolphin blue is just going to kind of be leading this merry chase the whole way, and it's going to become a quarter-mile sprint to the wire from the top of the stretch. It just seems like that's how this race has to shape up.
It's going to be orchestrated. I love it when the trainer says, I just let it up to the trainer. No, I mean, the jockey, trainer does that. We all discussed that. And he's probably going to say, look, Pratt, you go, William, you sit behind him. And then at the quarter pole home, you're on your own. But that's what I like to see. If one horse doesn't break and you have to improvise, we get it. But I think that the idea here is to let Silver Knot go out there and then let measure time, kind of like orchestrating a team workout in the morning, which these European trainers do all the time. That, So they should put an odds board on who's going to be in front in the first quarter of a mile. That could be like even money either way, right?
Yeah, and I don't know that being in front is the advantage in this case because I think they're going to be like clocking each other. Rhythmically. It's just going to be a sprint. It's a quarter-mile sprint. It's a mile-and-a-half race, but it's a quarter-mile sprint to the wire. Tough call in the Sword Dancer. Let's go to the Ballerina. We know this is going to be a sprint, 7 furlongs on the dirt. Some of the top fillies and mares in the game in the sprint ranks. We had Sweet Azteca out in Southern California, of course, as one of the big hitters. She's going to run Sunday at Del Mar. Who will be one of her chief rivals when we get to the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint? Well, this race, the Ballerina, should give us some of those answers. Vava's in here. Of course, she won the Charlestown Oaks last year, so we talked about the Oaks already on the podcast today. She's graduated nicely as a 4-year-old, Jeff. She's won 2 of 3 this year. Comes off wins in the Derby City Distaff and the Chicago Stakes at Churchill Downs. She's 0 for 2 at Saratoga. Does that make her a little vulnerable in here? I guess we're going to find out, but this is a really fleet and quality addition of the Ballerina.
Yeah, I looked at the 0 for 2 part Vava had. It came early in her career, and I'm not sure that's going to be a factor. Right. She's run hard in her last 2, and I think she was wisely given a little bit of time off. She could certainly run well fresh. She's got the perfect style. 7 furlongs, and she's even money. Again, there's a situation where as a gambler, you look at even money and say, well, I mean, she's probably the right horse. If all things being equal, she'll probably win, but I'm not sure I want to take that short of a price. I ended up trying, and I say trying because she's going to have to run the race of her life, but Society to me at 4-1 might be a good gamble as well. She hadn't been out since the Breeders' Cup when she ran against Vava at Churchill going 7/8. That's a tough distance off the bench, and she made the lead here. There was she got off a good early lead, an opening quarter that was rather soft, and then the pressure was turned on, and I thought she had a right to get a little tired. Again, she's had some time off that race to recover. A nice, easy series of breezes since then for Asmussen. I think she probably could be in front. I don't know how hard they're going to send Money's Goal on the outside, who seems to have, gone back, and she's not what she used to be. And they tried to rate her last time. That didn't work. But I don't think Society necessarily needs the lead to win. And so, I think the pace situation might be rather soft going 7/8 because those are the only 2 that really want to bust out and go. And if one doesn't, the other one will have a chance. I'm going to gamble with Society, assuming that she will step forward. She's got a couple of triple-digit buyer numbers that are better than anything that Vava's ever done to go back to. So, as a mare now at 5 years old, she needed the race. She probably didn't train her a lot hard. This should be her best chance. So at 4-1, see if Society can pull off a mild upset.
Money's Gold cross-entered in a stakes today at Saratoga. Expected to scratch from that. By the time you watch the podcast, you'll probably already know that. But she is expected to go in the Ballerina. I'm going to give a shot in here to Chi-Town Lady. Could be a big day for Jose Ortiz, if I'm right. Friday to Saturday, a big 24 hours. This was a 17-1 upset winner of the test. I think they're going to go a little faster than you do. I think Money's Gold and Society could cook in here. And Scylla on the turn back, I'm curious to see, where she will be positionally. But I think Chi-Town Lady is a very interesting horse. I like brisk late pace figures. If you're handicapping out a DRF, you're not coming up with this horse at all. Completely devoid of any speed figure, buyer figure that's going to make you think she's competitive enough to win. But the brisk late pace figures are ridiculously good for a horse who has a record like this. She finishes exceptionally strong every time. Maybe she's a horse for course with that win last year, over 7/8 of a mile. She was 17-1 in that test stakes a year ago. I'm going to take my gambling shot in there. This is going to be my play of the weekend because I know I'm going to get a big price on her. She's going to be a huge number. I think she'll be every bit of 15-1 perhaps in here, 12, 15-1 with so many other good options in this race. I'm going to rely on that late pace figure. I'm going to hope they go really fast and cook and they come back and maybe we can pull an upset in here. So I'm going to go with Chi-Town Lady in the Ballerina at Saratoga. To the 11th we go from the fillies and mares sprinting for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint Division to the sprints for the boys, the Sprint Division. 7 furlongs to 4 go, back-to-back races, essentially brother-sister races on the card, and they're going to go in succession. Race number 11 on the card here, and Jeff and I are against each other in the filly and mare race, but we're on the same horse here in the 4 go, Jeff. I don't think there's a lot of pace in here. We both landed on the same one. Tell us about Mulligan.
You look at Mulligan's last 3 wins, and they were all visually very impressive. But he did the same thing in all 3 of those races, 2 allowance races, and then the Nehru last time out at Aqueduct. And that is, he either makes or presses the pace in hand. And then when the pressure is turned on, he has that reserve energy, that second move, that second blast that really demoralizes the horses that are either stalking or trying to make up ground towards the end. He just leaves them in the dust. And as a colt who's only had a handful of starts and with more, he's a relatively fresh 4-year-old with probably more proof to improve. And with rising speed figures in every start, I'm not sure we've seen the best of Mulligan. Yeah. And while, again, this is on paper a little tougher field than maybe he's seen, maybe not. But whatever the case is, the pace scenario, again, looking soft for him. I think Mulligan, either on lead or right off it, is going to be really hard to beat. And then they're going to have to figure out whether, what to do with him, but I would imagine the Breeders' Cup Sprint would be next after if he were to win.
Yeah, he's kind of got that form now that's like so good. He kind of reminds you of the Mott horse a couple of years ago who just got really good right before the Vosburg went on to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And, it just kind of was the right horse at the right time, just putting it all together. And Mulligan off his last win in the Nehru certainly looked eye-catching. He caught my eye at Keeneland running the fastest 6 furlongs of the meet by far when he won an allowance company to kick off his 4-year-old season. Let's go back and take a look at his win in the Nehru.
Tightly bunched here as they reach the top of the stretch, and Mulligan is the new leader. It's Mulligan who's in front. Here comes Coastal Mission trying to rally on. 90% Maddie on the wrong lead, but has momentum down the grandstand side. It's Mulligan who continues to find more on the front end. Coastal Mission is trying to catch this leader. 90% Maddie is right there in third. It is still Mulligan now holding them off inside the final 16th, and Mulligan is sprinting clear. Mulligan will win the Nehru and win it impressively. Coastal Mission second, 90% Maddie, then Ever So Mischievous and Prevalence, and 1:20.
This is a grade 1. It looks like a step up in class, but I don't know if there's a grade 1 sprinter in this field. Baby Yoda might be second choice, and he's never just kind of felt like a big time grade 1 sprinter, a very nice stakes horse. But when you talk like the elite of the elite, the grade 1 sprinters, like we'll see with the Chosen Vron and some others in Southern California, this looks like a pretty easy grade 1 in the 4-go.
Yeah, the Pat O'Brien is the same type of race at Del Mar, the 7/8 on the dirt. I think it's a deeper, tougher race. I mean, any horse race that had Chosen Vron in it is going to be deeper and tougher, but there are others in that race as well. I looked at this race and was surprised to see that there doesn't seem to be a legitimate, other than maybe Mulligan, Breeders' Cup type sprint contender in here. So, again, I think he'll continue to win, and then we'll see how good he really is when he comes to California.
If you haven't gotten enough 7 furlong sprints on the main at Saratoga on Saturday by now, we bring you the third straight. It's race number 12 on the card, the H. Allen Jerkins Memorial. This is the former King's Bishop. Of course, King's Bishop was a horse trained by Allen Jerkins, so posthumously they changed the name of that stakes race to honor the Giant Killer. $500,000 grade 1, 7 furlong sprint. And this feels grade 1, Jeff. When you talk about the 3-year-olds, these are the best of the best in the 3-year-old sprint ranks. This should be a dandy, a really big field size in this one. You've got an excellent field. You've got Prince of Monaco, a grade 1 winner in here. You got Bookham Dano, a grade 1 winner of the Woody Stevens. An outstanding field in here. You got an unbeaten horse like Speakeasy, who we don't just know how good he can be yet. There's the turnback horses in here, right? You've got horses like Timberlake and Domestic Product, who were Triple Crown trail type horses now, who are coming back to the sprint ranks. That's why I made it the Express Bet race of the week. I think this is a fantastic race and a good betting race as well.
It is, and this is a great one. And this actually, even though this is for 3-year-olds, might be tougher than the Forgo. I mean, there's some
so.
that can definitely run. What I did here to handicap, first of all, I looked at world record because he's number 1. And traditionally, when you look at the field, you start at the top, right? I really liked world record's last win, and I liked him going in at 6-1 because he was lone speed, even though he didn't really take advantage of the lone speed situation per se because he went fast no matter what. It wasn't like he cruised to a 23-1 opening quarter and one. He ran fast from start to finish. But I do think he might be the kind of horse that you can't really – and you shouldn't take a hold of him. You better let him roll out of there and try to run everybody off his feet. That worked really well in the Amsterdam. I don't know whether he can necessarily get away with that going 7/8 because there are horses here who can sit and blast. And going 7/8 of a mile, it's going to be tough for world record to utilize the same run them off their feet type of strategy that he used last time. And I'm not sure you take hold of him, that's going to be doing any good either. So I got away from him. Then I looked at Speakeasy because he was 8-1 first time out because he really didn't train like all that much. I mean, he had a stablemate in there that was all the rage. And so I went back and watched his comeback works recently on XBTV at Saratoga. He still doesn't look like much. I mean, he doesn't do anything in the morning that you would suggest that A, he's all that good, and B, that if he is that good, he's ready. He just kind of slops around there. So, I mean, maybe he's one of these horses that just you can't go by workouts. But I passed on him for that reason. Then I went to Prince of Monaco, who was too far back last time, but he didn't get out that good. He got pinched back, had too much ground to make up. Put in a great run, I thought, on the Woody Stevens, got beat a half length. So I went back and watched his breezes at Del Mar recently for Bob Abbott. He didn't look that great to me. I'm sorry. I know. I mean, you look at his form, you say, well, he's a good horse, and he is. But I was hoping to see a typical 58-1 Baffert. I didn't see that. So I'm not so sure what kind of shape Prince of Monaco's in. So I kind of dodged him a little bit.
Right.
Bookham Dano, I have nothing against him for sure. I mean, he's a good horse. Never gets a lot of respect, but he's damn good, I think, and he's tough. But then I went back and I said, I'll watch Domestic Products last race just to see if it was as impressive as I thought it was. Man, he blew me away. I mean, and he's been routing all of his life pretty much, and now they drop him back to one turn. I mean, Jeremy, did you see what I saw?
I did. I mean, this was a race where if you watched it when it happened and you haven't thought about it since, and you just go back and look at the past performances, yes, it's a 7-length win, but it actually looks better than a 7-length win. This is very, very visually impressive. We're going to give the fans a chance to see, and our audio listeners a chance to hear the call of Domestic Products win in the Dwyer. This is how you want a horse to finish a race when you talk about a horse striding out through the wire.
In front, here's Domestic Product to the outside, ready to challenge, and the front two have really gotten away from the rest, and Domestic Product has now taken command. It's Domestic Product kicking clear and opening up here in the stretch. Domestic Product, look at him, just stride out, opening up, now about 8 lengths from the rest of the field inside the final 16th. No doubt, Flavien Prat, Domestic Product, easy winners of the Dwyer. Hades re-rallies to get
Now, the question is, that was a 4-horse field with a first over trip. It's about as easy as it gets, and he did everything you want. But that's a prep for this race. That's the Nehru, not the Jerkins, and that's what you want to get out of a prep. And he did everything to a T, exactly what you want to see. I think Domestic Product and World Records last race are the two best last races in this race, and I think it could come down to that. Those two. Practical Joke, the sire of Domestic Product, of course, won this race, turning back in distance. They tried to make a Triple Crown horse out of. Remember, he ran very well in the Bluegrass, went on to the Kentucky Derby, just like Domestic Product, won the Tampa Bay Derby, got to the Kentucky Derby, but like his sire, better around one turn, and they brought him back, and now he's found where he should be. Domestic Product would be no surprise here to be a second-generation winner of the Jerkins. Practical Joke, like I said, won this back in 2017. For trainer Chad Brown, who since has won this race again with Jack Christopher. So he knows the kind of horses that get the job done in this spot. And Flavian Pratt's got 11 stakes wins this summer at Saratoga. That's unbelievable. I don't think anybody else has more than 5. I mean, just absolutely dominating the stakes. He's aboard Domestic Product, so a lot to like there. The speed of World Record, the flash of what we just saw out of Domestic Product and how good he might be around one turn. I think the race comes down probably to those two. I'm also going to give a little look in here to Timberlake. I like these horses cutting back in distance, these classy horses getting back to what they should have been doing all along. This was a good grade 1 winner last year around one turn in the Champagne. Back to one-turn racing after going through the Arkansas Derby, the Haskell. Kind of a second off the layoff move here, just the second start since the end of March. I think Timberlake is set to run a pretty good race. I don't think he could win, but I think he's a good second, third underneath horse to use in the exotics. I think the win end comes down to World Record and Domestic Product, the two to beat in the Jerkins. Let's go now to the Travers Stakes. It's the main event on Saturday, the Midsummer Derby. This looks like the Belmont winner, Dornock. We've got the 2-year-old champion in Fierceness. This looks like a race potentially for champion 3-year-old. Sierra Leone, of course, could win the 3-year-old championship still with a shot. We know the 3-year-old filly title belongs to Torpedo Anna. Nobody's going to take that away from her at this point, but she's got a chance to do something historic, Jeff Siegel. It's been since 1915 that a filly won the Travers Stakes at Saratoga. Can she be the first to do it in 109 years? It's been a long time, but she matches up well with this field.
I think she can do it. That's something that conclusion or opinion took a while to get formulated for me. I first looked at some of the others, Dornock, Fierceness I looked at, and then I realized that every other race he runs is terrible. And he's on the terrible beam now. I mean, and the other thing about Fierceness is, whereas some of the other races where he ran bad, I couldn't explain. This one I actually looked at and say, I don't know if he's going to get the same kind of trip that he needs to win, which is to say, he likes to lay fairly close right off the pace or on it and not have to go too fast in the early stages and then go kick on. But there's speed inside of him. And I would think if he drops back a little farther and sits second flight, I don't think that's what he wants to do. I think he wants to be right in the fray. He gets discouraged too easily for me. So that said, he might go out and win by 10. But, in this kind of race, you gotta try to envision how the race comes out and then hope that your vision comes to pass. Right. Now, Anna, I mean, she's a versatile filly. I mean, she can win on the lead, obviously, but she loves to stalk. And in looking at the workouts for the major contenders before the race, to me, the sharpest, most eager, the most spot-on runner entered is, in fact, Torpedo Anna. I mean, she, when you break off in a team drill like this, the instructions are usually, go even, stay stride for stride, and go for. And I think that was the intent here. And Torpedo Anna would have none of that. In fact, after she put away the workmate, she sees the horse in front and said, "I'm going to go get her too." And the jock says, "No. Right, you're going to too fast." And you can see the hammerlock that the jock's got on her. Her ears are up. She says, "I'm not waiting around. I'm not going to let them play my game." So she goes ahead and still under wraps here. And it's not like she's going in 102. She's going in 59-4. Gallops out one. That is the sharpest workout turned in by any of the Travers starters. And from the rail, again, she'll save ground. She'll dictate the race one way or the other. If she wants to go and she gets a jump on these horses, great. If not, doesn't matter. She can second or third. Numbers-wise, she's close, maybe not as fast as the others, but she hasn't had to be. And her last race in the CCL, she got absolutely left at the gate and still won for fun. She won that race by whatever it was, 4 lengths. She could have won by double digits. I think 3-1. I'll take Torpedo Anna.
Let's go back and take a look at that Coaching Club Oaks.
At the quarter pole, 6 furlongs in 1:11 and 4. Candide will make her bid on the outside. They're at the top of the stretch, and Torpedo Anna has a 3-length lead. Candide is trying her best to close the gap, and Intricate picking it up from behind, but it's all Torpedo Anna. The leader of the division is simply spectacular in the Coaching Club American Oaks. She'll win for fun by 4.5 lengths over Candide. Intricate.
Nobody was in her league in that race amongst the 3-year-old fillies, and it was a little disappointing that those who were in pursuit that day in the Coaching Club American Oaks didn't come back and take the Alabama last week at Saratoga. It was an outsider winning that one. So the competition's tougher than what she's been facing, no question about it, but she seems up to the task with Torpedo Anna. What do we make of the Belmont Stakes winner, Dornoch? He came back and won the Haskell. Can he put 3 big ones together in a row? Where do you see him in the race, Jeff? We know, like, if you're looking him eye to eye in the stretch, he wants to beat you. He wants to keep kicking on. So can Dornoch get a nose in front at any point in this race? Do you see him on the lead at some stage? And how do you see his prospects of winning it?
I tell you what, it's going to be like what is that? The force versus the, what's that saying?
The immovable force and the immovable object, or something
like that. That's what's going to happen. With,
the object is immovable. I can't remember what the force is.
Oh, they're both immovable. I can't wait to see Dornoch and Torpedo Anna hook up at the quarter pole, because somebody's got to give, and neither one will do that. You know, irresistible force versus
irresistible force.
We figured it out. But anyway, no, I mean, Dornoch's obviously good. I mean, he knows how to win a fight. I'll give him that. And he's going to have the fight of his life against Torpedo Anna, I suspect. And I don't know who's going to outquick who early. Dornoch's got the option of, because he's outside of maybe, dictating the situation if he wants. He doesn't need the lead to win, and I wonder how hard they're going to use him from the gate to be aggressive enough to make the lead. I might do that if I were Saez here. In other words, the first 16th of a mile, you can let them roll out of there and maybe discourage the others from going, and maybe they take back and then they hand you the front end. You don't have to concede it, even though you are outside. On the other hand, there is that option if you see that maybe you don't break as quick as you want, and Torpedo Anna, they're on the engine from the rail, then okay, fine, I'll sit second. So it's going to be kind of a race within a race between these two. And then if they do hook up, we talked about one or the other trying to get the best of the other. But what does that do to each trying to worry about who might be coming from behind? Like Sierra Leone, who I don't know whether I trust him either. He's had chances. He hasn't run as well. But, man, if they go really fast, I mean, he's the one who's going to benefit.
Yeah. I trust him more than any other horse in this race to run in the top 3. He's going to come with that move. He's been a little disappointing in his last 3 of delivering the final knockout blow. Some of it because of the lugging in. Last time he didn't have that issue, but he couldn't get the fierceness, lost by a length in that one. I know what he's going to do. He's going to run his race. He's going to need one of those brilliant horses to have their style dulled a little bit. If one of those brilliant horses runs a brilliant race on the front, I don't think he'll catch him. That's just the way that it is. He'll need a little bit of help in this particular spot. But again, you got Pratt, who's riding just lights out at the meet, and then Stakes Company. There's a lot to like about Sierra Leone when you do this from a pace analytics standpoint, right? This race looks like it's going to cook. And if it cooks, he's got a good shot of rallying and winning it. But it's all price sensitive. You lost at 4-5. You lost at 8-5. He was 9-2 second choice in the Kentucky Derby. What's the price going to be? Is this the time you're finally going to get a number on Sierra Leone? 9-2. Now you might have a gamble. This race is all about the tote board in win betting for me.
Because
this is a very tough race to figure.
It is. The only really conviction I have is that I don't like fierceness. And I liked him like every time he's run. So it's not like I dislike it. But I just don't see him. But I could see a setup. But he's going to need one, Sierra Leone, for me to expect it. It's really, not only is it an intriguing race, but there's something that, there's a title potentially on the line here. It's a championship race. So, and also we're looking for something in the 3-year-old division to step up and become a legitimate contender for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Because I'm not oversold on the older horses. I certainly in California, we're going to have the Pacific Classic next week, and I don't want any part of those horses. I've seen enough of them. So, these are the kind of horses who not only can clinch an Eclipse Award, but they can really become major players if we see that kind of effort that we're hoping to see.
Arthur's Ride, the winner of the Whitney's, a horse people will talk about for the Classic now at this point, but nobody was talking about him 21 days ago, before the win in the Whitney. Of course, we saw City of Troy win the Juddmonte International earlier this week at York, and he's headed here, it looks like, for the Classic for Aidan O'Brien. So a bit of Classic news out of the 3-year-old ranks already this week before we even get to the Travers in City of Troy. And of course, we know Forever Young, the horse beating 2 noses in the Kentucky Derby. He's expected to have 1 prep in his homeland of Japan before coming back over here, probably with some company. I would imagine more than 1 Japanese horse. Some of the older horses, Dermasotogaki et al., could be horses that we're looking at for the Breeders' Cup Classic. So a lot to be shaken out yet between now and the Classic, but the 1.25 miles of the Travers, to me, just really could turn out 4 or 5 ways. We haven't even mentioned Unmatched Wisdom, who's 3 for 3 lifetime. I will not be surprised if Unmatched Wisdom is the horse who ends up winning this race on the class rise. This is a very talented horse. It's Irad and Chad, and you're going to get a fair price. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to go in this year's Travers Stakes. Jeff is going with Torpedo Anna. I'm still wishy-washy. I mean, we're 24 hours from the race. I got to see the tote board. If I'm going to get involved in the win pool in this race, I've got to get 4-1 or more on somebody I really like. And I like several horses in here. So it's going to be price dependent as we take a look at this race. And as far as the multi-race wagers go, thankfully, we've got an all-stakes pick 4 races, 10 through 13. That's all on the dirt. We don't have to worry about the weather and all those 7 furlong races leading up to it. If I'm playing that all stakes pick 4, I'm 5 deep. I'm sorry, I'm 5 deep in here. Maybe fierceness and try to beat him, but I will not be surprised if the tactics with fierceness are bottom him out. Just go. Like Mike Rapoli was kind of strange in the way he's like, defeatist going into this race. Well, we know he's going to run about last and then come back and win the Breeders' Cup Classic. Ha ha, wink wink. But if they're in this race because Mind Frame is out, and that's why they're going in here, they know if they sit and stalk, this horse is not going to run well.
Right.
His only shot, I think, is just to go blister. But do they want to do that in a 1.25 mile race and then have nothing for the Breeders' Cup Classic? It'll be interesting. They might bottom the tank out on him, but I don't know how this race is going to shake out. That's just another question mark in what is a very intriguing must-watch edition of the Travers. I don't know if it's must-bet because I can't figure the darn thing out, but it is absolutely must-watch, Jeff.
Absolutely. I'll be watching. And again, I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for the filly. I kind of hope to see her win. I mean, like I mentioned on Tuesday, I admire Kenny McPeak for doing this. It's something I probably wouldn't do because I'm much more conservative that way. But go for the gold, go for the glory. Why not?
Let's go to Del Mar now for Saturday's feature race. It's the Pat O'Brien. This is when you're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And we already know one horse who's headed towards the Breeders' Cup Sprint. That's the big favorite, the Chosen Vron, in this particular spot. He won the big race earlier in the meet, the Bing Crosby, and he did it as good as he's ever looked. And that's saying something for a horse who's won about 90% of his starts.
Vron now goes up to strike the front. And the Chosen Vron is the new leader as they turn for home in the Bing Crosby. The Chosen Vron leads them. On the outside, Jackstown is running a big one. Close the game. Sugar is also battling. Anarchist is down at the rail. They come for home, and just look at this. The Chosen Vron is just absolute class. The Chosen Vron and Hector Berrios win the Bing Crosby for fun. Second was Close the Game, Sugar. Behind that came Jackstown.
Jeff, the field might get a little bit tougher, but a lot of the same in here. Arabian Night was a horse who was going to be very interesting in here, as he was expected to run for Bob Baffert on the cutback and distance, but he has been, not entered in the race and declared out with an injury. So we're not going to get Arabian Night for the Pat O'Brien. Do you see any challenges for the Chosen Vron?
No, I don't. And I'll tell you why, because This race at 7/8 of a mile is probably going to present a very moderate early pace. I mean, Raging Torrent will probably go, but the Chosen Vaughn is quicker than Big City Lights, obviously quicker than Senor Buscador, and he is going to, assuming, you know, he breaks through this field, he's going to sit out there and just kind of have a really good time, just as he did actually Bing Crosby, where that race came up a little bit much more moderate early on than I thought. And the key here for me is that they're running him back. I mean, this is the kind of horse that you don't have to do this with. To run this horse twice at Del Mar, he doesn't need this race. I mean, he run well fresh, but he must be doing so good in the morning that Cruel Jacks must say, you know, I could keep training him. What's the point? He needs to run.
Right.
And if I run him, I don't have to hone on him in the morning anymore. I can just kind of gallop him up to the race next time out and breeze him a few times and he'll be ready to go. So I think for the purpose of keeping him as fit and as sharp and as spot on as he needs to be heading into the Breeders' Cup with some time off now, that's why he's running. And again, the race came up where this is not going to be, I don't think, a grueling type of race for him because he's going to get a soft trip. He's only going to have to run from the quarter pole to the wire. Raging Torrent's a nice 3-year-old. He's a really nice 3-year-old. His numbers aren't quite what the Chosen Ron has, but he's good enough and continuing to improve. And he might hang on for second. You know, I mean, it's possible. So, but I don't think he's going to be able to outkick the Chosen Ron in the final furlong. Again, it's just a fun horse to watch, and I hope he wins it. And after that, we can just kind of watch him train up, probably, I would think, to the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
We could have a much better picture of the Breeders' Cup Sprint after Saturday. Of course, you've got the Jerkins for the 3-year-olds at Saratoga. You've got the older horses going in the Forgo. And then, of course, at Del Mar, you've got the Pat O'Brien. So the Breeders' Cup Sprint's going to take a lot more definition after Saturday's racing around the country. That's going to wrap up our podcast this week. I want to remind you on Friday today, as we premiere the podcast, big day of action, afternoon racing at Woodbine. It's King's Plate, rescheduled from last week. We've got a lot of King's Plate coverage for you in our blog section at expressbet.com and at news.first.com. I've got a look at the King's Plate field in there. Also, Scott Shapiro's got a look at our hit and split pick 5. So if you get 2 million rewards points from first, if you get the pick 5 taken down today at Woodbine on King's Plate Day, Scott Shapiro's got his picks in there to help you through that sequence. And Frank Carulli's got his picks tonight for Charlestown's races, the Charlestown Classic, the feature there. Again, 2 million first rewards points in the hit and split up for that Charlestown pick 4, as well as the pick 5 at Woodbine. Also at Woodbine today, mandatory payouts in the pick 6 and also in the super high 5. So some significant carryovers to look at there, I think in the 60, 70,000 range with mandatory payouts. So be sure to check that out with the Woodbine racing. Jeff and I are going to return on Tuesday for It's Official, when we'll recap all of this great action. Jeff, I'm going to give you last word on Travers weekend.
Well, it's great racing. It's a pivotal weekend for Breeders' Cup. There are some good gambles, so I'll have Saratoga best plays for you on Saturday, and as I've done throughout the meeting, and then, of course, we'll look at Del Mar as well. So, again, great racing, good gambling, really fun time, and the first 0 weekend of college football. I'm a pig in slop this week for me. I can't wait to kick it off. I mean, we kick it off early on Friday today.
I can't follow that up with anything other than have a great weekend, everybody.